Hi everyone, I'm George Farrar. In the final show in our LA 23 series here on the Exploring with George channel, I want to share some experiences I had with you on my July 2023 visit to LA and some tips that will help you survive visiting Los Angeles in July. Of course, my first suggestion would be aware of the weather. Keep in mind that depending upon the day, you may have to deal with things like humidity. Water is important. Being able to keep yourself presentable, if that's kind of your thing. A lot of people want to, when they go to various tourist sites, historic places, they're on the street, they want to look decent. I would suggest carrying some paper towels with you. Keep in mind that some streets have trees. Don't be afraid to slow down a little bit. Depending upon where you are, you may find a McDonald's here or there. McDonald's is an American institution. Opportunities for refreshment of sorts, or other fast food places, restaurants, shops that you can kind of duck into here or there. Particularly on Hollywood Boulevard, one morning, it was humid, it was hot, but I plotted that morning to right when the Hollywood Museum opened to go in, and so I was one of their first customers or guests, and had a great time. So planning's important, mapping's important, parking is important, getting from point A to point B in a timely manner is important. You don't want to be in a situation where you're on the street in the sun for a long, long period of time, especially as the hours go by in the day. And as you can see, it was, I would determine, or I would declare, somewhat for me, somewhat hot, but mostly I was dealing with humidity. Okay, there were points in time where I was sweating like Elvis Presley singing at a concert. Okay, we're talking humidity a lot of times in the morning, and your best bet, I would suggest, if you're going to arrive by car, or parking garages, they provide shade. A lot of times they're a convenient location. You'll end up paying, but you're going to end up paying no matter what. One thing also to keep in mind, and this would be when you're in the planning stages, start thinking about, before you go, where you're going to stay. Now, are you going to stay in the center of it all? It's rather expensive if you want to stay in the center of it all. And you're going to pay the price in a quarterly. Not all of us, are Daddy Warbucks. We're not rich, okay? I found a very nice, large chain hotel. Okay, I do the hotel thing out in Arcadia, towards South Pasadena. Nice area, decent experience, and I commuted in on the LA Metro. But keep in mind, there's a cost-benefit, kind of a cost-benefit analysis you're going to have to do when you plan, right? Because depending upon how early you want to start your day and how early you can get out of bed and get your continental breakfast or get your breakfast wherever you go or whatever you do, and whether you want to watch TV and hear the weatherman talk about how hot it is. I think some of the fun about going to a city is you get to kind of see what's going on in the city, the TV, and maybe even your phone feed and social media really helps you to do that. However you do your morning time, great. But just keep in mind, if you have a lot you want to do, the clock is ticking, okay? Water is important. Make sure you start your day incredibly hydrated. Be willing to accept you're going to have to stop somewhere, okay? You may get on an agenda of things you want to see. If you pass by a McDonald's, if you pass by a restaurant, store, convenience store, place you can dive in and dive out. I didn't plan to have lunch on Sunday the 16th at McDonald's. That was the last thing I thought about doing. But guess what? When the heat was on, I did it. I needed to, okay? Distances on mapping, okay? Maps, you're going to think maybe I can just walk over here and it won't be that big a deal. Well, walking, a mile here, a mile there, starts to add up. Utilize LA's park system. utilize the trees on the streets. I do a lot of filming. So for me, my attitude is if I have to stand in the sun to get the film I need, so be it. But I also keep in mind where I can duck in for shade. Now, I couldn't have said this 20 years ago, but now I can. LA has a great transit system in a lot of ways. And so I was commuting in from Arcadia, from the South Pasadena area, up and then around and then down south into downtown LA or into places, and then ultimately into places where I wanted to go. And, I would suggest keeping in mind when it comes to that one thing I encountered was the automated announcements about the stations were not always accurate.
Arriving. Highlands Park Station.
Okay, I would suggest knowing the cities on your metro line, the towns, the stops, and utilize the big, huge windows. You can look out and see where you are. Also, generally, you'll find, and I would say it's practically anywhere in any American city, 99.9% of the people are decent, good people. They may be in whatever moods they're in. But you will find that 1% where something's going wrong, that fraction of a 1%. I was on a pretty lengthy train ride at one point, and the guy was like, "Don't touch my bike, don't touch my bike," to somebody. Someone bumped into it or whatever. And he went on for 5 minutes about not touching his bike. The bike meant a lot to him. As soon as the next stop came, practically everybody exited the car except me and some other person. I just changed seats and kept my journey going, So longevity on the train, just be mindful. But I found generally the whole experience was efficient for me. But just keep in mind, if you're commuting in, you're going to, I wouldn't say lose an hour, because you'll get to see a lot of the city depending upon where you're staying on the train. I call them the trains. You'll get a lot of chance to see things, especially, you really are truly first time or second time in LA and experiencing it. Downtown LA, Monday the 17th, high of 89 degrees downtown. Again, the trees were helpful. I was able to go into the city hall and very efficient way in to go up the observation deck. Went in the observation deck, enjoyed being able to see the city, got downstairs, found a little cafe within City Hall, grabbed a soda. Again, keep yourself hydrated. Don't be afraid to go into little nooks and crannies places anywhere to get your liquids or whatever. Avail yourself of what I would call the facilities when you can, because you may not have plotted. Nobody sits in a map on their vacations and goes, geez, where am I going to have to use the facilities? I'll go here. You're going from site A to site B, the place you want to go, City Hall. For me, it was City Hall, down the way to the park, down to the library, Central Library. By the time I exited Central Library, walked around, I was able to burn a good half hour to an hour just enjoying the books, enjoying the experience in the Central Library, Richard Riordan's Central Library, really fun time. By that point, I was going like, okay, well, I want a salad. Well, the salad places were filled. Lots of lines of lunchtime. It was a weekday, and they were filled. I found a nice little place, went down some steps underneath the street, and found a place where I had a salad, and you could have things like pizza, salad, lunches. There was lunch places and stuff, and it was a really fun, nice time. So you got to be willing to kind of willing to maybe make an adaptation as to what you ideally want to do versus what you can do practically and stay cool. And so that was very refreshing, right? So you rejuvenate, and then you get back out on the street. I went out, filmed around the Broadway area, and there's an arcade off of Broadway to cut over. I was going to a place called the Last Bookstore, And sometimes there are these arcades, these places. I call them arcades, but that's where you can actually do a pathway through buildings, and you can actually get out of the sun. So there are these different options. You can research them. I found, again, dive into a bookstore you wanted to go to, heat of the day, those kinds of things. Well, by 2 o'clock that day, I was like, okay, time for me to head back. And then the 18th, was unique because it was the vacation from my vacation, which I do tend to build into planning. I would suggest you do so too. It's you have the list of things you want to do. Everyone does. Some people plan it out really well, and some people tend to want to go by ear or whatever. But at some point, if you're on a multi-day vacation, you want to just have a little bit of time to just kind of just chill. And the weather was somewhat better on Tuesday the 18th. So I wanted to go out to Hermosa Beach, and I did. I ultimately drove out to Hermosa Beach from my hotel, but I got a late start. I was trying to avoid traffic, but I don't know if you can really avoid traffic on the 605 freeway. And boy, it was a lot of freeway driving and a lot of trucks and semis and cars. And I finally got out to Hermosa Beach, but I couldn't find a good place to park. And I spent a lot of time just driving around. I had my heart set on Hermosa Beach, but finally I waved the white flag of surrender from my black Scion. And I decided to go ahead and got out of Hermosa, and I found a great parking space in Manhattan Beach, and I had a great lunch at Hennessy's Tavern in Manhattan Beach, and I stepped out onto the pier, and I had some chill time. And it was fun. It was relaxing. I even did a little Facebook Live for my friends and family. And really just enjoyed some fresh air, and that was really all I did on Tuesday. So when you can, keep in mind, take that time. But also, one thing I learned from that day is if you're going to drive in Los Angeles, expect it's going to take a lot of time. And maybe you go earlier. I know one thing: if I had gotten out to Hermosa earlier, I might have gotten good parking. But it was neither here nor there. A great time, and that was what was important. Now, Wednesday the 19th, so that's where I did Hollywood. I did the museum in Hollywood, got there early, had a great time, and then walked Hollywood Boulevard. Around 11 o'clock, though, by the time I got out to the forecourt of the Stars at the Chinese Theater, there was a big crowd of people. It was incredibly hot, and I was really using my phone because I was taking a lot of pictures and film and video of Hollywood Boulevard. Lots to do in a very crowded block on Hollywood Boulevard. And so when I got out there to start taking pictures of the different footprints and handprints and autographs and concrete at the forecourt of the Stars, there were tons of people. One thing to keep in mind is your phone. If you're like me, you live on your smartphone, and on a hot day, it does start to get warm. It starts to get hot because you've got ambient heat, your body heat. You're using it. If you're like me, like I said, you do a lot of filming, a lot of video. If you're doing a lot of intensity, just try to pace yourself a little bit. And, I just weaved in and around the crowds, and, again, great time, wonderful time. But again, hot. But, it was then time to descend underground into the LA Metro, and I went out to Griffith Park. I took a LA Metro out to one of the stations, and I took a free bus to Griffith Park to the observatory, where I saw a great planetarium show, and I filmed. They have a great, essentially almost like promenade viewpoint overlooking the Hollywood sign and overlooking downtown Los Angeles in the distance. Very beautiful. They say do it at night. I next time would like to do some night filming out there. Again, great people, but I would definitely suggest, okay, if you're not against bus transit, to take the bus. Very convenient, very professional people, very coordinated. You might have to wait. I had to wait a little bit for the bus to pick me up on the way to go back down. Okay? Remember, we're going up and then we're going down. And there are parking lots. So if you wanted to park, you could park. But that's the one thing I was glad I didn't have to worry about, was parking. And again, I can't say enough real good things about overall the LA Metro system as the trip progressed. You're going to run into certain things or whatever, but overall it was very efficient, and I was able to get around. I was able to save time that day. And then I got so enamored with taking the Metro that I took it all the way out to Long Beach. Went out to Long Beach. I was able to get some pictures of the Queen Mary berthed in the harbor. Kind of a bit touristy out that way. I kind of ate a little bit corporate. And that was kind of right? So, I think a lot, if I could look back, think about where you want to eat and plan ahead as best that you can, but be adaptable. And just keep in mind that humidity levels are important, water levels are important, and being able to be comfortable is incredibly important, because you're out there in the public on the streets, generally going from point A to point B, or you're in the metro. You're in a very public dynamic, right? And so it was a fun time, okay? And so I hope that this somewhat rambling rant about LA in the summer is somewhat helpful for you. I am one day going to go back to LA and I'm going to do my travels, but it most likely will not be in July. But there's some of you maybe through the way things are, or just like me, just say, well, you know what, I'm going to do it. Or let's say you're a teacher and you can only take a lot of good time off in the summer. All the basic rules of surviving the summer apply, but utilize what the city offers you. Utilize those kind of restaurants and stores and little convenience stores, the trees, the metro system, the buses, the trains, and sometimes you may find yourself maybe in a way that may not be exactly perfect, but just know that there are thousands of people tromping around on the same day as you, and you'll be all right. So if you want to know more about what's in Los Angeles and what there is to see, well, I put together a huge series that I've spent hours and hours and hours putting together, and so it's here on the channel. Now, I'll have some shows further down the road, here on Exploring with George, and I hope you stay tuned. I want to thank you for watching. Take it easy. See you later.